as far as maintenance goes, when you're doing any green roofs, you know, the biggest thing we're dealing with is weeding. Okay, and different types of green roofs will have different types of weeds. This is another green roof. There is actually a building under there. That's a big parking garage. There's about 18 inches of soil on this. This is irrigated. It's lawn, it's turf. Okay. So you can see that this, you know, somebody says green roof. Green roof can mean a lot of different things. Essentially, what the bottom line is, it's soil and plant community on top of a building with a waterproofing membrane. Now, the waterproofing membrane is obviously to keep the building dry. We're going to talk about maintenance. That's one of the things we really need to keep in mind. If you're going to be boots on the ground maintenance guy, you're going to be dealing with trying to maintain a green roof. The very first thing you're going to want to do is think about waterproofing, think about the edges. Anywhere that, you know, you're not going to be up there with a shovel booting into the ground. You're going to want to be careful knowing you're not going to be up there drilling, you're not going to be spiking. You're going to know how this assembly was built. So you understand this particular green roof, this was literally installed, finished 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. That is the first mowing on that roof. Who's a maintenance guy in here? All right, what's the first mistake we made?
Take too much cut off the plant.
Well,
Never take that much of that area of height.
well, it's a pain to carry that lawnmower up 3 sets of stairs. So, we were a little aggressive with our cutting, but here's a design problem. Look here. We got all these bowler lights. I designed this. I didn't even realize. I didn't think, like, what an idiot. The sedum that you don't have to cut should have been in the panel where the lights are. Now, these guys have to be up there with weed eating, you know, $50,000 worth of light bollards. Well, you know what's going to happen in 2 years with these guys with string trimmers banging those light bollards. Design mistake. Okay? Guess who made it? Me. Been doing this a long time, still screw stuff up. Okay, but that's a typical design error that's making maintenance difficult on this roof. This particular roof also has sedum, there's a metal edger, and then we've got turf. It's really cool. I mean, when you go up and look at this particular job, you got all these different colors and panels and perennials. It's awesome. From a maintenance standpoint, you want to take the bridge. I mean, you know, it's going to be tough. We worked with the architect. This was the architect's sort of master grand scheme, and it was great when we looked down on it. And when I was doing this, one of the things I never actually did, because we were doing this in the middle of winter, was go to the site, because I thought that the towers could see onto the roof. And I thought, this is great, because you can see this cool pattern from up in the office windows above. Well, not in this building. You can't. There's only a few people that can actually see the full pattern looking down on it. Nobody else can see it. So we're going to probably switch that around and think about it. So again, that's, green roof maintenance can be cutting the grass. All right, let's get down to sort of nuts and bolts here. All green roofs, and this is a code issue in the city of Pittsburgh. If you are building in the city of Pittsburgh, you have to have a vegetative-free zone. It is written into the building code. I actually helped write it because what they came out with first didn't make any sense, and we got them to move some stuff around and get the code straightened out a little bit. But that gravel edge you see is vegetative-free zone. Now you see this black. It is a root barrier, so most all systems. Well, let's just say all systems should have waterproofing membrane, root barrier. You do not have to have foam, but you do have to have this vegetative-free zone. And underneath this drain, this hatch is a drain. So this is a drain box. Okay. This is a Hydrotech slide that was sent to me, I needed a good shot. So this is a little excessive from a design perspective. That does not need to be that big. We are only typically going 12 inches for that vegetative free zone. Really only needs to be 12 inches away from that drain box. But you need to have, as far as maintenance, if you're on a roof that doesn't have vegetative free zones, you want to talk to the owner, blow them back, say, hey, time out. We got a reason. The reason we want this vegetative free zone is because that is where the water is draining and getting off the roof. Okay? Anytime you're building on a structure, you've got to consider weight. That structure is designed for passive load, which is the weight of the roof itself, active load, which is people, and then there's excess capacity. We are utilizing the excess capacity of the structure to put our roof on. All these structures have a certain excess capacity, okay? What happens is as you add water, you add weight. If the water is not getting off the roof, you're increasing the weight, you have a potential for failure, okay? So as a maintenance professional, if you're writing spec, you're going to want to make sure that that vegetative free zone is maintained properly. This particular vegetative free zone's got CNM overrunning it, which means that there's a root system in there. When there's a root system in there, that's slowing down the water getting off that roof. Okay. Another thing on this slide is that the counter flashing is not going below the gravel. One of the benefits of having a green roof, which there's many, is that that roof is protecting that membrane. So no longer is our membrane being exposed to sunlight, to ultraviolet light. Our membrane is not being exposed to as severe expansion and contraction from sun and heat and freeze thaw cycle. It's not being exposed to wind scour. It's not being exposed to puncture risk. So theoretically, the roof membrane being protected at least doubles the life. We are now hearing people say it's tripling the life. We're hearing people say that it's making the roof membrane going to last the life of the building. Okay. Most of us are saying you can double the life, which is it's a financial incentive for the owner to do this along with the stormwater. But here's the weak link. See that? See that black right there? That's membrane. Well, that little bit of return flashing didn't cover the membrane. That piece of membrane of roof is being exposed to the elements. Well, that's where you're going to get a failure. So instead of me having, in the field, I've got double life cycle. But right here, I've got normal life cycle. And worse yet, I've got rocks up against it, which is, people are going to be walking, grinding, causing stresses. So as a designer and as a maintenance professional, you want to look at these flashings, these counter flashings, and we don't want to see this. We want to have this covered up. Now, that root barrier should have also been brought up behind the counter flashing. That's something else you're going to want to check if you're inspecting green roofs. If you're in the design side, you always make sure that protection barrier goes up behind that counter flashing. Again, more vegetative free zone. There's a walking path. Really recommend you provide walking if you're a design professional. Don't have the guys walk on the gravel. That's not a path, because every time they're doing that, they're grinding gravel into the membrane. All right? And on this particular roof, you can see there is a whole bunch, there is a whole bunch of vegetative free zones. So this is a narrow roof. If anybody's ever been up to Soldiers and Sailors, that's Soldiers and Sailors green roof. So that green roof goes all the way around that upper deck of that building. One of the maintenance problems they're having with this is, see these overhanging trees? They're dumping leaves, branches, acorns onto that green roof, which is making a maintenance issue to the point where they actually asked the city if they could cut the trees down. Well, that didn't happen, which I'm glad didn't happen. They just have to do a little more maintenance. So if you are involved in a green roof that's something this large, you are going to have different zones of maintenance even. The shade is going to cause this sedum, this is a sedum roof, to grow differently than the sun side. What will happen is the sedum will actually grow better in the shade. It's not so drought stressed. So you'll find that this is going to be a sort of healthier looking panel. That's a non-irrigated roof. So the panel that's in that full sun's taking a lot more stress, a lot more heat stress. The stuff that's in the shade is going to actually be healthier, which is a little bit counterintuitive of what you'd think with sedums. Everybody thinks sedums, you can truck them in the parking lot, full blazing hot sun, and they're going to be happy. Yeah, they're going to survive. But truthfully, the less stress that plant has, the happier it is. Okay? All right. One of the main things we need to think about when we're doing green roof maintenance is actually fire. If we get a little fire on the ground on the landscape, typically not a big catastrophic event, right? If you're on a roof and we get a fire, you're right into your building envelope. And this is, and I've got some more slides of this. This is a green roof. This is a roof that was built at this point probably 8 years ago. I saw it 2 years ago. It was built as a research roof, and it was abandoned. So that was an extensive sedum roof that was abandoned for 6 years at a research facility, and it went wild. Now, the problem is they've been just weed eating and weed whacking this thing down. There were 4 inches of hay on that roof. And you're going to say, how's that going to catch on fire? It's on the roof. Any firemen in here? You know about the birds and the cigarettes? Okay? Strange as it sounds, birds like cigarette butts. And they will not always distinguish between one that's lit and not lit. They will actually carry lit cigarette butts for nesting material. In the spring, there's a fair number of house fires that start using gutters, and it's because birds are carrying lit cigarette butts up into using gutters, building nests. Guess what we have? Same situation, same potential situation. Okay? Careless maintenance workers, you know, everybody wants to sneak out and have a smoke, especially in all these buildings that have very strict smoking regulations. What do? They pop out the door, puff a cigarette, come back into work. Well, where do the butts end up? On the green roof. Most all green roofs have, or should have, man door access. We really encourage people to design, when they're designing their buildings, man door access onto the roof, even though it's going to be a roof that's not necessarily going to be inhabited. We've done jobs where there's been hatches, ladder hatches, ladders and hatches. It's an absolute nightmare for maintenance. Having to go up a ship's ladder and go through a hatch onto the roof. It's a real drag. But one of the things you're going to want to do is keep any amount of debris down on that roof. Back to this one. Another slide, but we don't actually use mulch on our roof side. We don't want to be putting wood bark mulch on a green roof if we don't have to. And the reason being, especially on a public roof, all you landscape guys in here, anybody ever have a mulch fire? You know what happens? Somebody flips a butt, especially last month we went through that 90-degree weather, hits that mulch, we got a smolder fire. And you can have that same situation on a green roof, especially on these occupied green roofs. So we're actually not encouraging people to put mulch on these roofs. We actually let the water, the rainwater, wash the organics out of the aggregates, so you essentially have a gravel aggregate, a haydite mulch. Works pretty well. I'll show you some pictures of but